We take tiny glimpses behind the liquid curtain.
Giraffes on horseback pushing wheelbarrows filled with ashes through emerald fields and glistening pumpkin patches.
Brothel Slaughterhouse Soup with a glass of vodka and cool.
All right, thank you very much. Let me come over to you guys. Now that that's over with. And hi, hello everyone, and welcome to my first YouTube live stream. Thank you all for coming. Let me just take a look and see who's here. Great. Soup. Yes, thank you, Brian. Russian Arcady, pumpkin soup. Yes, indeed, pumpkin soup. I mean, this track is perfect for October. I didn't plan for it to be released in October. It just sort of happened. And it just so happens that we have a jack-o'-lantern and a scarecrow in it. So that's cool. So it's, it's a perfect holiday gift. So if you want to give someone a gift, 99 cents, you can buy it on iTunes or anywhere else. And that's perfect for Halloween. Let's see what else we got here. Serbia. Thank you, Ivana. Hi, Suji. Let's see. Let's see what else we got here. Can I speak about my approach to this album and Wagon Wheels? Yes, I can, and I shall. My neighbors do love me because I am actually a very quiet neighbor, and even though it sounds loud, it's actually not that loud. And what I was speaking about last time is that this device, the Fractal XFX 3, which is what I'm using, and I use that and the 2XL Plus as well when I was recording this album, which is the previous version. You can regulate the volume, and I'm about as loud as I can go. I have it up all the way just to do this so you guys, because YouTube allows me to only use this webcam. They're not letting me use the phone. So I have a little farther distance to go. But it's really not that loud. And according to my neighbor over here, who's an older man, he doesn't hear it through the wall. He only hears it when he walks out the door. It actually, you can regulate the volume and still have full-on distortion and a gain. So it's really a fantastic device. And as I said last time, and I have nobody's forcing me to say this. I actually think it's like the greatest guitar device, since the electric guitar. It just offers me everything. And I will speak about Wagon Wheels. Can't really hear me playing. All right. I'll see what I can do about that. Great single. Thank you. Nessa. Rock and roll. Let's see. Izzy. Hi there. Let's see what we got. Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate that about the video. Brian, clean. I guess are you talking about me? Yes, I took a shower, so I'm all good. No, you're talking about the guitar, I'm sure. But thank you, I appreciate that. I hope it is. Here, okay. And great video, thank you. I appreciate that. I directed the video. It's the first directing I've done, but I'm very, very on top of it. I'm very prepared to do that. Zoe, thank you. I'm glad to see you. Payback to the trumpet player. Yes, I have a trumpet player that lives on this other side. So this guy, I mentioned him, he's fine. This guy is not fine. He's a trumpet player and he blows the trumpet whenever he wants. So 9 a.m., imagine having a trumpet next to you. I live in a performing arts building. This building was designed for performing artists. I'm right off of Broadway. So those of you who don't know this area, I'm right near all the Broadway productions. For those of you who do, I'm in Hell's Kitchen, which is a few blocks away from Times Square. And so this building was designed for performing artists. And so we have a lot of them. We have a lot of actors and things like that. You see a lot of people you'd recognize walking through the hallways. But this guy, he plays trumpet and he plays it whenever he wants. So I don't actually. I keep it, really cool for these people. So what have I learned from my last album for this one? I'm going to answer that question too. That's a good one. I'll get to those. What picks do I use? All right, this is the picks I use. They are Dunlap 2.0, and I started using them in college, and I haven't used anything else. I've tried, and I've actually used the ones that everyone likes. What are they? The Jazz 3, the ones that Eric Johnson uses and John Petrucci. I don't like the small ones, but I like the Petrucci ones, which are full size. And if I hadn't to choose another pick, but I've been so used to these. And one of the things about these is I have very dry skin. So these actually, keep the computer going here. These actually have like a tackiness to them, and they actually stick to my thumb. I don't know why. but it's just something that does. And so that's really great. So they don't fall. So I can kind of. Kind of get that going on there without having it fall apart. So I've used these forever. I've been using them for, since college, and I just, just like them. Hi, Greg. Let's see. The video is sick. Thank you, Izzy. Denister, thank you. Thank you again. Wouldn't miss it. Thank you. Incredible track. I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. This guy, Eric Denister, actually contributed to this track in a way. I was just fiddling around the guitar one day, and I was with him, and I played the initial riff, which I'll play it a little bit later because I have to put a clean tone on, which means I have to get up again. But I was just messing around, and I just came up with this riff improvisationally, and he says, "You should make that into a track." And I was like, well, maybe. And I did, and that's what you hear in the intro, that intro that somebody asked me about last time. So yeah, he inspired me to write this thing, and so then I wrote it. I continued to. I really like this tune. It's a very different track for me. I think it's more accessible than most of the stuff I've done, and most of the stuff that will come out from the rest of this album, which is a little, there's a few more accessible tracks, but this would be the most accessible one. And then it's also, this track ended up, I have some really great players on it. Some of you might know Atma Anur is on drums. He is a brilliant drummer, and I've mentioned him last time. He's just one of the greats in the world. I mean, he's just the tightest drummer I've ever played with. Fantastic, and a great guy. And he's played with, for those of you who know, he's played with some of the greatest guitar players in the world. He's played with Jason Becker, Marty Friedman, Ritchie Kotzen, Greg Howe, Tony McAlpine, Steve Vai. He's played with everyone. He was Yngwie Malmsteen. He was just one of those guys who, just like he was on every Shrapnel recording back in the day when Shrapnel was like the big guitar label. And he is an outstanding drummer and just a great guy. On bass, we have Stu Hamm. A lot of you know who he is. He is a bass virtuoso, and he's, he played on Steve Vai's first 2 records. He played on a series of Joe Satriani records. He is a solo artist in his own regard. He plays with Greg Howe. We were just toured with him. He plays with pretty much everyone. He's just like one of the top guys in the world, and he's famous and for it because he is a brilliant musician. And I met him years and years ago. I met him when I was a student originally, and he gave me a lot of advice on music school and things like that because he went to music school, and he gave me a lot of good advice at that time. And he was very nice to me. And I sometimes you meet someone who you admire and they're not always nice. He was. But then I met him again, and I mentioned last time that I was in a guitar competition years ago. I won. It was sponsored by Gibson Guitar and Guitar Player magazine, and I won a Gibson. I'm not a Gibson player. I'm a Super Strat player, which means, first of all, it's got to be black because, as you see, that's my clothing. 24 frets. If you can see it, hum single hum for those of you who are guitar players. Floyd Rose style bridge. And that's the kind of guitar I play. And so I sold the Gibson, bought this with the money. But at that competition, Stu Hamm was one of the judges. And he went backstage right after I performed, and he says, "I know you." And he knew me from NAMM. For those of you who know, NAMM is a big convention that every serious player is at, and they're performing and the whole deal. And he'd seen me there performing, and he knew me, and he said to me really lovely, flowery things about my playing. Really, he complimented my playing, and I reminded him that we had met when I was a student, and we stayed in touch here and there. So when it came down to doing this, I asked him if he would, record with me. So he did, and that was great. The keyboard player is Alessandro Bertoni. He is just one of the best keyboardists in the world. I mean, these players that I played with on this track are just outstanding. Alessandro is, first of all, one of the nicest people I've ever met, and one of the most accommodating people I've ever worked with. He, going back and forth with him was a pleasure. He would get the work done. He would send me files. We'd text back and forth. He'd just send me a file. I'd just listen to it on my phone, wherever I was. I'd send him, things back and forth when he was working on getting these material together. And he's just an outstanding human being. And he and I have been in communication today over this thing, and so is Atma. Atma wrote me first thing in the morning. He's in Europe, so it was first thing in the morning for me. And it's these are outstanding musicians. And I'd like to talk about the actual video itself. So the video itself, I conceived of this years ago, and this whole idea with the sort of South Park style cutout animation. This track deals with surrealism, and the entire album is Ideological Explosions of the Absurd Hero. I would be that absurd hero. And these are my thoughts, ideas, and ideologies and things of that nature. And again, there's the album cover and my cup of coffee. I will talk about the merchandise in a minute, but this is my favorite piece because I just love this mug, and it has my logo on the other side. I totally love this mug. It's one of my favorite things in the world right now. Next to my Hulk 181, for those of you who know. Anyway, so basically, this track deals with, the entire album is based on a poem, and it's a 3-part multi, and I'll talk about this, so Rob McIntyre, this is for you. And also, I'm going to play Three's Company later for Rob McIntyre. That's an inside joke. He knows what that means. And so basically, the idea is this. It's I consider myself a multidisciplinary artist. I went to art school and studied art before I went to music school. I'm very serious about my art. This, of course, is my art. This is a self-portrait of duality. The actual portrait's called Wisdom and Brutality. So one side is one, one's the other. And the album itself, when it is released, the side A is called Wisdom, side B is called Brutality. The second part is called Zen and the Absurd, which will come out after Ideological Explosions. It's a 2-part double album, but it will be released in 2 halves. And the side A is Knowledge and side B is Brutality. So I'm sorry, Wisdom and Brutality, Knowledge and Immortality. That's the side B of the Zen and the Absurd. So anyway, the idea is I have a background in the visual arts as well as literature, poetry, philosophy, and music. So this project combines all that, and everything I do is all parts equivalent, meaning that I see it as a democratization of these forms. I don't see a hierarchy. It's not like this is a music thing, and then I'm adding this other element in to enhance it. To me, these are all equivalent. And so the poem is really the nucleus. And the poem itself, which will be in the inside of the album, and it is, if you're interested, and I think somebody asked me about it last time, I did put it on the news section of my website, robsbar.com. So if you go to news and you scroll down past the video of me doing some of this from the music video, there's a clip there. It's like a 15-second clip. Just past there, you'll see if it's readable. It's from the actual inside of the album, so we'll see. And you could actually read the poem ahead of time. So, and you'll see that all the spoken word comes out of there. So the spoken word in the beginning, giraffes on horseback, pushing wheelbarrows filled with ashes through emerald fields and guillotine pumpkin patches, is from the poem. And then at the end, emperors, concubines, and eunuchs all convene in the firestorm for Brothel Slaughterhouse Soup with a glass of vodka and chloroform. And then you see in the animation. So I perceived of the animation and how these are surreal concepts, but can be very dark depending on how you illustrate it. And I wanted it to be whimsical. Again, I wanted to have that surrealistic Salvador Dali thing. And for those of you, there's a subtle reference to Salvador Dali because the announcer at the end, and I should mention the people who did the voiceover, but Katie Sunderland, who did in the intro, and Sean Grant, who I just met Katie when she did this, and she's a great human being. And Sean, I've known for years. I scored his film. He's a comic actor and a comedian and a writer, and he lives in Dublin. And we've never met in person, but we've become very good friends over long distance. And when it came to needing a comedy voice, I said to him, well, you're Irish, but can you do British? Because I want something like Monty Python, John Cleese. Think John Cleese. And he, thought that was funny. And he did sort of a John Cleese-y kind of Monty Python accent on it. But the Salvador Dali references, if you see in the animation, he's got the mustache. So I'm referring to my surrealism background, and I'm, if you can't see it, but the wall here is filled with abstract expressionism and surrealism, which is a huge part of my life. And as I mentioned, I'm a visual artist as well. So that was important to me. Anyway, so if you handle the illustration more seriously, it becomes very dark. Wheelbarrows filled with ashes, guillotine pumpkin patches, the whole deal. But if you handle it whimsical, then it comes off more surreal in that Dali fashion, and which is why I wanted to do this sort of South Parkish kind of animation, which I animated as well. Illustrate all the illustrations you see in the album, in the advertisements, and the promotions on the video are all me. The background is some of my abstract expressionism, which I painted on top of some of my actual scores. So you'll see the handwritten score, which is actually a piano score, and then you'll see the one that's sort of printed, and that's it's actually a string quartet called Matryoshka. The piano piece is called Playing William Tell by Myself. So yeah. So, but I painted on these scores, and that's what you see in the background. Anyway, so I handled the video and all the sort of imagery in a whimsical way. And those of you who are familiar with contemporary art forms and art movements of, say, the 20th century, there was a movement called Dadaism, which is based on absurd concepts, which also goes with what I'm doing. And there's artists like Marcel Duchamp, for example. And when it was titled Dada is actually a term that means, I think it's Dutch, and it means hobby horse. And there was the absurd concept of it, and that fact that it sounded like a child would say something like Dada. So I wanted that absurd kind of childlike angle, and I'm sort of referencing that. Anyway, so throughout, that's the feeling. But the next track, which likely will be Zeitgeist Novocaine Dump Truck, which is actually the introductory track of the album, and I will be releasing this one's a little out of order, it's the third track on the album, but I'll be releasing them in order because they tell a story. And there's a lot of voiceover in that one. There's a lot of different things going on. There's orchestra in that one. It really accumulates, and that video will also be a lot more serious, kind of a dystopic. Think George Orwell, that kind of thing. Think maybe like a little bit like, let's say, Darren Aronofsky's Pi and some of the imagery they use there. So it's going to be quite more serious. Anyway, that's where that's at. So if that gives you some idea of the scope of this project, which again, it's done in 3 parts. They all work in conjunction: the art, the music, and the poetry. And this track is the most accessible and the most whimsical. So we'll see. They all have different personalities. And the second record has a completely other personality, Zen and the Absurd. I won't get to that too much now, but it goes into more dichotomous extremes where you have much more of like an accessible vibe and a much more inaccessible vibe. So what equipment did you use for the song and amps pedals? Okay, I can answer that easily. Again, I'm using exactly what I used. I'm using an Ibanez RG. It's a prestige model. It's a 2550, I believe. 2570, I think. And I bought it, like I said, after I won that Gibson. I sold it. And as soon as I got back, I actually said to the guy at Gibson, I'm like, hey, how much can I get for this? And he laughed, and I was like, so I was planning on selling it right away. I sold it. I went to a distributor in Japan. Some of you might know Ishibashi. They distribute musical instruments worldwide, and they're like the largest one in Japan. And Japan is where the best Ibanez's come out of. That's a Japanese company. So this is a prestige model. They had this model in the US, but they had it in gunmetal gray. It's a very light gray. This one, I wanted black. Everything's got to be black, just like, Passenger 57, always bet on black. So I ordered it from them. They sent it, came a few days later. And I put DiMarzio Evolution pickups in it. Fantastic. I'm using the Axe-Fx 3 with a setting, for those of you who know, and I mentioned this last time, based on the Mesa Boogie Mark IIc++. So just to give you an idea, it's an amp from the 80s. It's an unbelievable amp. It was a modification, which is where the pluses come from. There was a Mark IIc, there was a Mark II, Mark IIa, Mark IIb, the Mark IIc. Then there was a modification done later where the person who did it put a plus in the back, so it got known as the Mark IIc+. And then apparently legendary in the world of guitar is that there was another modification done, but people don't believe it. A lot of people are like, "Nah, it didn't happen." But there's a second plus. Now, it's true because Metallica apparently have them. they have them, and they used them on all the early Metallica albums. So those of you who like those 80s Metallica albums, that tone, that's the Mark II C++. This is based on that sound. It's my favorite tone, and I love what I'm getting out of this with these pickups. The pedals are the whammy pedal, for those of you who know the Digitech whammy, and which you hear on those sections in the video where I'm dancing around with the scarecrow and wailing. I'm using the bar, and I'm using the whammy pedal, which I used when I was just improvising, especially at the end. And then I used a Morley Bad Horsey, and I love the Morley pedals. I really do. I've been using them forever. And the Bad Horsey, it's actually the Bad Horsey 2, and I dig it. I love the fact that you don't have to click it on like a crybaby. You just put your foot on, goes on, take your foot off, and goes off. But it just sounds great, and I like it. So what gauge strings did I use on the track? I always use 9s. I've never used anything but 9s. I used 9s because they were, when I first bought my first guitar, which was a Stratocaster, they were on it. So I just kept going with them. When I got I had Tom Anderson built for me. For those of you who know Tom Anderson Guitar Works, which are probably the best, in my opinion, solid body guitars in the world. And they only make a very limited number every year because Tom himself wants to be physically involved with them. So, they don't have a high level of production. They only produce a small custom shop in Southern California. But when I had got that guitar, I spoke to them and Tom, and I said, "Hey, what gauge should I use?" And he's like, "Well, you're a whammy bar guy, so keep the 9s on because the whammy bar works. You're going to have more tension with anything more." So I kept the 9s, and I've always used 9s. On this guitar, I mostly use Ernie Ball. I've used elixirs as well, but I like the Ernie Balls. They're, I don't know. Everyone else uses them. I don't know. The strings are strings, right? I don't know. They say there's a difference, but if they don't break and they feel okay, that's good. But I just think like, well, all my favorite players use Ernie Balls. Let's go with the Ernie Balls. I use the elixirs on the Tom Anderson because they have a coating and they last a little longer. And I don't know, Tom put them on there, or whoever put them on there when I got it built. So I just kept with that. They said they give you a little more long lasting and then a little smoother. So to answer that, thank you, Denister, Eric. I'm glad I do. That means a lot to me. Anyway, let's see what else I got here. Let's see if there's any other questions. Did I use multiple guitars on this track or stuck with the RG? I actually used mostly the RG for the lead guitar, but I did use multiple guitars, and I'll talk about them in a minute. And some people helped me out with that. And one of them is someone I mentioned here, Eric Denister, who helped me out by recommending I make this into an actual track, this riff. I borrowed a Parker Fly from him, which I used for one section of a track on Zen of the Absurd. Because it has a piezo or piezo pickup. Some of you might know it's a pickup that goes under the bridge that makes it sound like an acoustic guitar. And I use that in collaboration with the electric tone for a clean section with a lot of sort of octavey things that I'm really happy with. And he loaned it to me. I appreciate that. He's also helped me with a lot of inspiration. So he definitely deserves and got a thank you on the record, as well as some other people that I would like to mention as well. But he has a thank you on the record, and I appreciate all his help. And a terrific guy. So I use that. Tom Esposito, who has been like one of the greatest people in the world, he helped me out with this shoot. I would like to mention on this shoot, first of all, the cinematographer, Tom Flynn. I think you should all go on Instagram and look up tom.j.flynn. And he's like the go-to guy for making just killing music videos. He does everyone's. He did DMC of Run DMC a couple weeks ago. His video, he did Buck Cherry last month. He travels all over the country. LA, I'll be like, it was so hard to get the last bit of editing done the past few weeks. We actually just finished it like a week ago because we spent a whole day just editing, and then there was corrections that had to be made. But he's so busy. He'd be like, I'm like texting him. He's like, I'm in Vegas. I'm in LA. He's super busy, but he is a super nice guy and truly a virtuoso with the camera. So I'd like to mention him. He did an amazing job, and he's just fantastic. I will be doing other videos with him as well. And Tom Esposito, who I mentioned, who has been extremely helpful with me. He throughout this entire process, he would like go with me to like sessions. He'd drive with me down to Brooklyn. I'm in Manhattan, and I live near Times Square, as I mentioned. And he would drive with me down there, help me with equipment. And on this photo, the video shoot, as well as the editing, he went with me because we did them in Long Island. So for those of you who know New York, it's a suburb. but it takes a couple hours to get there, an hour to two, depending on which part you're in. It could take 3 if you go way out there. It's where the Hamptons are, if you hear about those. But Tom Esposito,
Rats on horseback.
Oops, we don't want that yet.
Wheelbarrows filled with ashes.
We'll do that later. Okay, so Tom Esposito was outstanding. He helped me all the way. He's been absolutely just the coolest guy, and he loaned me an Ibanez, I think it was a black label, maybe something like that, which is almost like a Les Paul metal. It's a very metal guitar, and I use that for certain things. I used my Strat, my Les Paul, and certain things. A friend of mine, Joe Pitch, he loaned me a Les Paul that I used for just a riff on one of the tracks. Izzy Monsanto, great human being, one of my favorite people, and he also helped me out. He has a thank you on the record. He sent me, he loaned me this really cool Jackson, what's it called? PC1. It's the Phil Collins guitar, for those of you who know the guy from Def Leppard. And it's a super cool guitar. It's like beautiful. It kind of looks like my Anderson. It's got like the quilted maple. And I used it for like 24 hours, and I did a lot of really cool whammy bar things with it. So sometimes when you hear those notes that are just like soaring, that's his guitar. And they just last forever because it has what's a sustainer pickup on it, which means that you can just click something and it just keeps sustaining the note. So I can keep and just have it keep going. So at the end of the song, when you hear that note just wailing, that might be his. I'm not 100% sure, but that might be his guitar. So yeah, he's great. Okay, and I got a couple questions here. So that's the equipment. I used some other guitars like that, but mostly it was this guitar. 98% of it. How long were you working on the whole idea and the concept for this album? I'm almost embarrassed to say, but if you want to go back to the origins of this, I've been working on this for 30 years, basically. I've been working on this forever. The concepts and the visual art aspect, the sort of duality, and we deal with a concept of duality of man and throughout this sort of, for those of you who know, Full Metal Jacket, the Jungian thing, Joker. So I'm dealing with the duality of man, which is why you see a lot of multiple images. And if you look at the thumbnail from the video, it's got 2 of me, and there's a lot of multiples of me. Everything has duality in it. So the photo on the back of the album, you'll see my shadow, things like that. I'm also dealing with just sort of 20th and 21st centuries themes of like desolation, existentialism, paranoia, and the concepts of like where man falls into society, especially being a postmodern society, and the dichotomy between one's metaphysical and existential presence. And so I'm dealing with these concepts throughout this sort of ideological explosions of the absurd hero. On a visual aspect, I deal with a lot of very 20th century schools of art, abstract expressionism, surrealism, nuclear mysticism, for those of you who know, and pop art, which you see on the cover, which is the sort of comic book illustration. And I'm dealing with sort of existentialism, post-existentialism, modernism, and postmodernism throughout the thematic material. So I've been conceiving this for a long time. I've been physically working on it for probably like 15 or 20 years. So I mean, it's like on and off, but it's been going on for a long time. So yeah, I've been putting this together in various ways for a very long time. Who would I like to do shows with? It's funny because I'm not sure where I fit in. And that's because what I do is so conceptual. And it's not just about the guitar, where a lot of shredders, and I get into that, deal, because that's clearly what I do with the guitar, kind of focus on the guitar. And it's like, they're just basically the guitar. I mean, you look at the cover of the records, it's them with a guitar, or it's a picture of a guitar. I don't really think in terms of that. The guitar to me is a tool. And I see myself as being, like I said, a multidisciplinary artist who has multiple paintbrushes, and I just decide which paintbrush I will use. And so in some cases it's the guitar, in some cases it's a physical paintbrush, in some cases it's written in spoken word. And like I said, there's spoken word throughout this album, a lot of it, which is all derived from the poem. So I don't know where I fall in. A lot of people like to mention Frank Zappa because of, I do a lot of experimentation musically. And I appreciate Frank Zappa. I'm not actually someone who actively spends a lot of time with Frank Zappa's music, but I think the origin of this association is that we both have the same influences. He just came before me. He would be of my parents' generation, but he's influenced by classical composers like Varese and Stravinsky, and so am I. I'm influenced by them and Volpa and Elliott Carter. Those are my two favorites, but definitely Stravinsky, definitely Varese, and same classical influences. He's influenced by contemporary jazz and fusion, which I am as well, but more of the avant-garde material, like post-Coltrane kind of thing, Eric Dolphy, and he is as well. And he also incorporates this all into a rock context as a composer, and uses some very experimental concepts musically as well as conceptually. So we kind of fit into a similar category in that way. So I guess that's why. But as far as like, who would I like to do shows with? I mean, I'd be open to anyone who just sort of fits into an appropriate, genre with me. I mean, just, I don't know. If Steve Vai, John Petrucci, Yngwie, Satriani, any of those guys need an opener, I'm happy to do it. Greg Howe, I studied with Greg Howe. I admire his playing. I wouldn't mind opening for him. Touring with him. There's a lot of guys out there. A lot of interesting material out there. As long as it's someone, an artist who draws a crowd that would be interested in what I do, which would be something with a lot of musicianship and guitar playing, and something that maybe has something more conceptual. So maybe something like like some of the more progressive groups, and that kind of thing. Some the prog sort of elements. So yeah, as far as that goes. Now, somebody asked me about wagon wheels and atom bombs, or they called it atom bombs and wagon wheels. That's cool. But I'll put a mirror up to it. I'll just pretend, which would be great because it sort of will have that duality thing that I'm interested in. So that's my approach to this album. My approach to Wagon Wheels was very similar in that it's also, sort of a multimedia album in the same way. It's not as fully fleshed out as this one. I think the preliminary steps to this, I almost see it as like an initial stage step into what I'm doing with this. And this one, I feel like I accomplished what I set out to accomplish with Wagon Wheels. Wagon Wheels, I never quite felt like I nailed what I wanted to and put it out there in the way I wanted to. This one, I did. But they both deal with this sort of multidisciplinary aspect. And that's great. Thank you. Can't wait to hear the rest of the album. I can't wait for everyone to hear it. I really can't. I can't wait. The thing is, I feel like this album, and I know as an artist, we all feel like you got to hear the whole thing, and we all get sort of into our own world with this. And believe me, I live in my own head, but this is very much a concept album, and I feel like the arc of the album itself, I put it together in such a way that it comes off almost like movements of like a larger piece. And the final piece, which is called Ideological Explosions of the Absurd Hero, and I'll mention all the track listings in a moment, is an orchestra piece. It's an orchestra piece with guitar, which is where I'd like to go with all this, where it's essentially, there's a live drummer playing, meaning a live drum set, and then it's orchestra and electric guitar. So it's not just, say, orchestral percussion. There's like an actual drum kit. But other than that, there's no bass player except for the string basses. And it's an orchestra piece, and it's actually done in 9 movements. But the entire album is like movements. So it's actually 7 tracks. And I would say it's actually 6 tracks because one of them is just split into 2 physical tracks. There's an intro call, which I'll mention in a minute. I might as well go through the track listing here. Zeitgeist Novocaine Dump Truck opens it. Then we go into Paranoid Mondays, which is, for those of you who are hard rock and metal fans, this one's like a really hard rock and metal one. I think it's accessible in the same way. I'm really happy with the riff. It's sort of like one of those, like, has like that sort of Shredder Van Halen-y vibe to it, and I dig it. I think it's a cool track, but it's like this one, more accessible. Zeitgeist is not. Then we go into Brothel. That's the 3rd track, and then a track called Urban Deconstructionism, which has actually a couple of movements in it. It goes into 2 orchestra movements. One is where it's very avant-garde, very influenced by the kind of material that I studied in graduate school, which is things like Elliott Carter, Stefan Volpa, Stravinsky. It's very much got that 20th century atonal kind of thing. And then from there, it goes into a very much a film scoring vibe, which I also am a film score composer. And I do that kind of thing. It's another part of my personality. So, and I've mentioned
Rats
that.
on horseback pushing
Yes, again.
wheelbarrows filled with ashes.
So, so it has that sort of sound as well. So it goes into a film scoring thing, and there's a really great cellist on it that she when we were recording, she was actually in Paris at the time touring with Madonna. And when we recorded remotely from her hotel, and she tours with Hans Zimmer. She's in Cirque du Soleil in Vegas. She's a really fantastic. Mariko Maranka, she's a Japanese cellist. She's fantastic, and she kind of plays the lead line in that sort of film scoring movement. And the two movements are called An Endless Stream of Digression and I can't remember my own titles, but it'll come to me, and I'll let you know. Anyway, then the next track is called The Birth of Liquid Prophets, which is actually an intro to anthropomorphic self-implosion theory. And together they're about 13 minutes long. Anthropomorphic self-implosion theory is in and of itself over 11 minutes. The other is kind of a one-man intro. And on that track, we have, Stu Hamm plays bass on that. Will Calhoun plays on the whole thing. If you know Will Calhoun, he's the drummer of Living Colour, and he plays on that. We recorded it at Living Colour Studio, which was awesome, actually, because we used the actual drum set that they used on the first Living Colour record. And so those of you who know Living Colour know Cult of Personality, and those of you who don't probably know Cult of Personality. It's a hugely successful song. And so it's just cool to have like the drum set that's on Cult of Personality, a song that when I heard it as a kid, I loved it. And I still love that song. But yeah, so that's the drum set. And so he's, by the way, brilliant drummer, super nice guy. Yeah, that was a great experience. And like I said, Stu Hamm plays on it. Also, Jed Klabowski plays bass on part of it. A great bass player from Connecticut. And Alessandro Bertoni, who plays keyboards throughout it. I have Derek Sheridan on a track as well, who's also a very, very nice guy. Those of you who know Derek Sheridan, he plays with Dream Theater. He plays with a zillion groups. He plays with everyone. He's one of the best keyboard players in the world, and he's super famous for it. And in the keyboard world, he's like essentially the gold standard. He's like, for those of you who know the guitar world, he's like a Steve Vai in the guitar world. Derek Sheridan is in the keyboard world. And he's super nice. So we just were writing back and forth, and he's like very cool. He's like, whenever you need me, I'm there. So he's just a great guy. I'm very happy with him. Anyway, what else was I going to say? So, and then the final track is Ideological Explosions of the Absurd Hero, which is, like I said, the orchestra piece. So I feel like the whole entire album has an arc to it and tells a story. And I want everyone to hear it and see the art and read the poetry together. So hopefully the sooner the better. Who made me want to play the guitar? It's always been inherent in me. When I was old enough to walk, I used to walk around wearing like the sunglasses that you get a little kid from the pharmacy that have like little ducks on the side or something, and a toy guitar strapped around me that I used like a string. And I used to walk around the streets and go to the ice cream truck. I was like 4 years old, wearing this thing. I put it on my back. I was obsessed with the guitar. I don't know where it comes from, but something inherent in me just loved the guitar even before I knew why. I think the final step, when I finally said I have to learn this instrument, was Bob Mould of Husker Du. As those of you who know me know, I'm a huge fan of Bob Mould and Husker Du. Bob Mould was, one of the two songwriters in Husker Du, and his guitar tone is still one that it's like my favorite rhythm guitar tone in the world. And when I first heard Celebrate Summer, makes no sense at all, and that guitar tone, I said, oh my God, that's it, I'm done. I got to play that instrument. So he was, I was obsessed with it, but then, and this was like in elementary school. Then hearing that, that was the end all for me. Eddie Van Halen, yeah, Jesse. Yep. Let's bring back those little duck sunglasses. If I could find them, I will. I'm going to look for those. And since I've said it, I'm bringing them back. But yeah, so there you go. If anyone has any other questions, please let me know. I also would like to talk about So put them in there if you like. I'm going to talk about a few things. First of all, I would like to mention the merchandise and a couple of giveaways that I spoke about before. So the merchandise, like I said, I love this mug. It's like my favorite thing in the world. I just totally dig it. I'm very happy with the cover. I feel like I accomplished what I've been trying to accomplish since high school with this, when I started with these ideas, and then the logo, which I designed as well. And so I really like the mug. But there's some shirts, there's tote bags, there's stickers, pins. I don't even remember. But if you go to my website, robsbar.com, easy, and go to the store, you'll see stores listed on top, and you'll see all the merchandise. Here's one of the shirts. I only have 2 shirts. My mother has a couple shirts. She also has a baseball cap. There's also knit hats that have the logo on them. So this is one of the shirts. I really like that. That's the back cover. That's the picture on the back cover of the record. And here's the picture from the front cover of the record. This is my favorite. This is a long sleeve t-shirt. There's long and short sleeve. There's hoodies. There's sweatshirts. There's all different variety. Most of the stuff's black, but there's gray, and there's a few different shades of black. There's like something called a heather black. I don't know. And then there's some white. But there's also shirts that just have the logo on them. I see those seem to be selling where there's no picture but just the logo here, which is totally cool, and that's subtle and it's cool. So please check out the store. Buy something if you like. But I mentioned this last time. I have some giveaways. Check out the store even if you're not going to buy anything, just to take a look at the material. So robspar.com. Go to the store, and if you go to my Instagram page, if you go to the link tree. Link in bio, as they say. But if you go to the link tree on my page on Instagram, it has everything listed, and it has a direct link to the video, direct link to Spotify, direct link to Apple Music. It has a link to something called Here Now, which just lists a bunch of places you can download or stream the music. It's got a link to the merchandise store and to the website separately, and has all my social media listed, as well as Bandcamp, which is on the bottom because there's nothing on it yet, but there will be. All looks great. Thank you. I appreciate that. Love the long sleeve. Please, man, get the long sleeve shirt. My mother was the encouragement for that long sleeve t-shirt because she wanted a shirt, but she likes long sleeve t-shirts. So I said, well, I'll make sure we have them. So we got long sleeve t-shirts. So that's what that is. She has one of those shirts. She has a mug. She has a baseball cap with the logo on it. There's 2 different ones. There's one that has sort of some gradation and one that's just gray. And the same with the knit hats. Great for the winter. Anyway, some giveaways. I mentioned last time that if anyone puts this track, Brothel Slaughterhouse Soup, on a playlist on Spotify, then they send me a link to the playlist, which I will then put it in my favorites. You're eligible to win a limited edition Brothel Slaughterhouse Soup shirt, which when I say limited edition, it's not on the website. Unless people want it, then I'll make it available. If people contact me and they say, I want the Brothel shirt. It looks like the art from the single. But the Brothel shirt isn't available. I don't have one. That's all I own. And it was the manufacturer sending these to me as a sample just so I could see what they look like. So I'm not going to wear a shirt with myself on it, although that would be pretty funny. Maybe I should do that for Halloween or something. Yeah, but anyway, I worried my name on it. It's absurd. This shirt, which I was saying was, if you win basically you'll be in for a drawing, and whoever's drawing will win that shirt. But I said last time, whatever you want from the merchandise store. So you can get the limited edition Brothel shirt, and I like collectible things, so it's cool with me. I have, if you go right there. Those are comic books, and they're really expensive ones. So I'm into like collectible stuff, and I have autographs here. That's Stan Lee's. You can't see it. That's Joe Satriani. Alan Holdsworth. That's actually the art from Wagon Wheels and Atom Bombs, the original painting. And then above there is a bunch of other autographed records. A lot of Steve Vai and Husker Du and Paul Gilbert's up there. So I like collectible things, but you can have anything from the merch store if you win the drawing. And I also like to mention this. Anyone who's a musician, a guitar player, piano player, I don't care, a drummer, whatever it is you play, the tuba, the sousaphone, that would be awesome, actually. If you do any form of cover of this track for social media, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, those are the big ones. But any other ones, why wouldn't you put it on all of them? If you do any cover, even just the intro or just a section of it, I'm not going to put you eligible for a giveaway. I'm just going to send you whatever you want. So you get free piece of merchandise. Just send me a link and I will put it on social media and I will send you whatever you want from the merchandise store. So there's that. I'm going to do another contest soon. Please tell me if you want. Some people didn't send me their playlists. If you want me to want to be eligible to win this, to win a piece of merchandise or the Brothel shirt, there you can actually see it, the Brothel art, or anything else. Let me know in the chat if you want me to extend the giveaway a little longer, so that you have time to send me your playlists, and then I can add them to the drawing. Because I'm happy to extend it longer, and then I'll make an announcement if everyone who wants to join the giveaway that you haven't put them in a playlist or haven't sent it to me. Because if you didn't send it to me, I don't know that you put it in a playlist, and I want to see those playlists. I want them. So please, if you put it in a playlist, let me know. And so, yeah. So please let me know. And if you want me to continue, what size is the Brothel shirt? Any size you want. Any size. I think that the manufacturer manufactures everything from like extra small to like triple extra large. So it's every size known to man. Marty Friedman, Kiko Lurio, Chris Broderick, or Timo. So you're asking me about Megadeth guitar players, and I will answer that one. Most people like Marty Friedman. He's in the sort of the renaissance of Megadeth in those years. Kiko, a really great player. Chris Broderick, we used to stand across from each other at NAMM. He'd be at, I forget which amp he was endorsing, and I'd be at another amp endorsement company, and we'd be standing across from each other just doing, which is what you do at NAMM. NAMM's a weird place where everyone just plays as fast as they can for hours. So yeah, make sure you have your protein and get a lot of sleep before you go to perform there. So yeah, add it to the playlist. Thank you, Brian. Send me a link any way you want. Message me, text me, send it through whatever. Anytime you want to send me a message, text, message me through Facebook, through Instagram, whatever, TikTok, any of these forms, email me, send it through whatever. My favorite forms of communication are carrier pigeons, skywriting, and my absolute favorite is send me a raven, Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire style. Those of you who know me know I am a Song of Ice and Fire nerd, and that right there is a map of Westeros and Essos, and a little bit of Sothorius. People are thinking, what the hell's Sothorius? That's the southern continent, in which, I'm a book reader, and I've read the books like 6 times. I'm like addicted to them, and if any of you ever have questions about A Song of Ice and Fire and George Martin's material, I'm the guy. So if you send a raven, I'm happy to get the message that way. So that's all good. Skywriting's good, but expensive. And I like any small animals that come through my door or window that have like little backpacks with stuff in them. So I welcome that. I'm a big animal person. So I love all animals. So yeah, please let me know if you want me to extend this giveaway, and just send me your playlists, because I won't know if you don't send it. Sounds good to you? Thank you. I appreciate that. So anyway, just to respond to the question about the Megadeth guitar players and the new guy, Timo. I've only been familiar with Timo in the past week, like everyone else, because he's covering for Kiko. While Kiko's, I don't know, he's recovering from something. Is he sick or is he busy? I'm not really sure what his story is, but something's going on with him. Some of you might know. But I would say this. I don't know how to put this. I prefer, I guess I prefer, if I was to choose one, Chris Broderick is probably the most technical. He does some technical stuff that's unbelievably just developed. I mean, he has this really developed way of handling arpeggios, where he does this hand over hand thing with the tapping. That's really cool. And I think that's where what I like most about just watching him do the technical thing. In the context, I would say Marty Friedman probably fits the context of Megadeth best. But if I was to choose, I'd probably say I like Kiko best. So I almost answered, I just said all 3 of those guys. I don't know Timo that well. But if I was to choose, I think I like Kiko's playing the best in his tone. I never liked Marty Friedman's tone that much, but in the context of Megadeth, he's appropriate. He fits that scene. And Chris Broderick, I like him just doing solo stuff and watching him do his crazy tricky stuff. So yeah, so there you go. So yeah, any other questions, please let me know. So anyway, I'll have another giveaway after I do this one. And that's, and so that's, that's what I'll be doing that as well. So let me just check this. Okay, so good. And so once we get through this one, am I a fan of Dragon Force? I like this question. Given an affinity for dragons and Westeros, am I a fan of Dragon Force? Not really. I guess I find them a little cheesy, but I don't know. Maybe maybe I'm not a video game guy, and maybe you have to be a little more video game oriented. But yeah, I mean, like it's just a little over the top for me. It feels like a lot. So I mean, I'm not hugely into them, but I really respect the players and what they do, and they're very progressive in their playing. And I respect all the musicians. They're good musicians. I think it's just not my cup of tea, but I like but I love dragons. And this guitar, by the way, when asked about the equipment, I really have to say that the name of this guitar is Balerion the Black Dread. So those of you who know Game of Thrones or Song of Ice and Fire know that is the dragon that Aegon used to conquer Westeros, and it's the largest dragon that in Westerosi history, and he's a big black dragon. So we named this Balerion the Black Dread, and I named my other guitars after the rest of the dragons, or some of the other dragons. So yes, so that's the name of this one. Balerion, you know it, Jesse. Cool. So yeah, so that's the story there. But yes, if you have any other questions, anyone, please put them in the chat. And so as far as some of that goes, let me see if we have anything else that I would like to mention here. So the merchandise, please check it out. And the giveaways I mentioned. And if anyone else has any questions about the video itself, or the the production of the video, it was really, I gotta say, one of the greatest experiences making this video. There are parts of making the album that were just completely wonderful, and parts that were really satisfying, and then parts were just just extremely emotionally exhausting. And it took so much out of me, because this project, this 2-part album, represents the accumulation of my work as an artist. It is my life's work thus far. I'm still alive. When people say it's their life's work, that means they're at the end of their life. But thus far, it is the work. This is sort of my life's work, and it represents everything I've been working on for 30 years of my life. So it took a lot out of me emotionally, and I am a perfectionist. So those of you who know me, I'm an obsessive perfectionist. Everything has to be exactly right. Now, when I went through the mastering process, I probably killed my mastering engineer. I should mention who mixed most of the album. I should mention who mixed this track, Greg Worth. I didn't mention him. I mentioned Tom Flynn, cinematographer, filmmaker. I mentioned Atma, Alessandro. I mentioned Stu Hamm. I mentioned Will Calhoun, Jed Klobowski. Also, Jeff Bowders played drums on Ideological Explosions, the orchestra piece. He played with Paul Gilbert, great LA drummer, sessions guy. And I mentioned Mariko on cello, and Derek Sheridan. But I didn't mention Greg Worth or the other mix engineers that I worked with. Greg Worth mixed this track. He works for Steve Vai in Steve Vai's studio, so this was mixed in Steve Vai's studio. Great guy, totally just a very cool human being, and great mix engineer. Obviously, Steve Vai doesn't work with anyone who's not the best. Steve Vai is a perfectionist too. So Greg's been working with him for, I don't know, 20 years maybe, and he's been working out of Vai's studio. Studios, there was 2 of them. There's in the second one. The first one was the Mothership, and then this one's the Harmony Hut, which is beautiful. But he mixed it, I believe, there. And so Greg Worth did the mixing. But the rest of the album was mixed. There was someone else who mixed Ideological Explosions, the orchestra piece, was mixed by Jake Jackson, who is a mix engineer in London. And he works in Abbey Road Studios, was mixed there. And he mixes a lot of film scoring. He does like all the Marvel and Disney, Star Wars stuff, and Ideological Explosions for orchestra. But he's this really great mix engineer. But the rest of the album, the other 5 tracks, were done by Rich Mauser, who I drove him insane, but he drove me insane too. So it's all good. He is a amazing mix engineer. He works with Dream Theater. He works with Liquid Tension Experiment, a lot of progressive stuff. Neil Morse and all of Neil Morse's projects, every project that he does, like I don't know, Spock's Beard, which is his original band. Tons of others, but he does a lot of progressive stuff, and he did the mixing and the mastering of the album. And I'm such a perfectionist and so obsessive. Anyone who knows me knows my obsessive personality and my perfectionism, that I would go back and forth and be like, I think there's like 0.1 dB that this raised from the last one, and I want it to be changed this way. And he'd be like, how can you hear that? And I'd be like, well, because I sit there for hours in the middle of the night with the headphones on listening and obsessing it. But he drove me crazy. I drove him crazy. It's all good. He is an amazing mix engineer. He did a brilliant job. Did I enjoy directing? Yes, I've always wanted to do that. And I directed this video. I had written everything out. Tom Flynn followed every direction I had. Tom Esposito was there. He saw me doing it on the set. It was a wonderful experience working with him. The actual shoot we did, like I said, in Long Island in a soundstage, which we did on a green screen, obviously. I will probably display some behind the scenes footage online in the weeks to come. Just to see what that looks like, me doing the same things you're seeing me doing the video, but on a green screen. So it's funnier. That was a great day. It was a great day. I mean, it was me, Tom Esposito helping me out, and Tom Flynn and his assistant. And it was the 4 of us in this soundstage, and me just flailing around playing the guitar. And so it was awesome. But then I had the shot list, and I would just call out the shots, and he would do exactly what I said. And then we went into the editing. I had the whole the editing list, and we just went through it. It was a great experience. It came out as I had wanted it to, and Tom Flynn's contribution was invaluable. He's just, he knows his stuff, so he made me able to do what I wanted to do. Which guitarist would I like to collaborate with? Steve Vai. Steve Vai has a concept similar enough to mine. He's a conceptual guy. I admire him a great deal. And if I was to collaborate, I think that I could contribute something to him too. There are moments I think, I wonder if I could, if he produced me and I produced him, what that would come out. So I would like to collaborate with him, one day. I don't know. Probably not happen, but it's cool. Can I ask about the fantastic composition by other artists named Three's Company? Your thoughts? Hi, McIntyre. Yeah, that's a track. It's my friend Rob McIntyre. He didn't do his homework, and we had to handle the composition, so he wrote real fast in 3/4 because we had less notes than 4/4. And he just threw it together on paper. It was a crumbled piece of paper. He handed it to the front of the room. This band played it, and it didn't make any sense. And it just ended. And when it ended, they were looking at it. And I was thinking, what was this? And he pounds his fist on the desk, stands up, goes, perfect! And it was just a very funny moment. He's the funniest guy I know. He's one of the best people I know. And he's just like, one of the most important people in my life. So I've known him since college. We actually auditioned on the same day, and we had such a different vibe. We're like, in a way, we're like the odd couple, where he's just very laid back about the way he handles life, and I'm very uptight with my perfectionism and my obsession. So we're very much like an odd couple in that way, but we have so many things in common, and he's just a terrific guy. And he, back in college, would force me to relax. He would actually make me relax. I just remember him I'd be tense about something. He'd go, you're fine. Forget it. And I would actually believe him. So he's terrific. I love you, Rob. He's like my brother. Anyway, and his daughter was present at the last one, and she is awesome. And I think it was awesome that she showed up and she referred to me as Uncle Rob, and I am her Uncle Rob, as he is my brother. So that answers some of those questions. If anyone else has any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'll round this thing up. and just review what I said here and what's going on, and do a little playing to end it. I'll play this thing out. But just to go review, I mean, we went through some explanations of the album, and I can't wait for everyone to see just have the whole album. I can't wait for it to be physical, and I love physical. Like I said, I love collectibles, but this will be CD, vinyl, and download. I don't care if nobody buys the vinyl. It's being produced on vinyl. I need to have it on vinyl, and there's a space on my wall for it. So there's a space on my wall it's blank right here, and it's for Ideological, Zen, both in vinyl, to go with the rest of the vinyl, which is up there. You can't see it here. But I hope people buy the vinyl. I love vinyl. It's my favorite form. It always has been my entire life. And when vinyl was unhip, I was still buying it, but like for $2. Now everyone's selling them for like $60. I don't know what happened, but it will be produced in vinyl no matter what. It will be produced for CD, and of course download. Everyone likes download, especially if you're under a certain age. But if you're over a certain age, you might like the vinyl or the CD. A lot of people who are younger say to me, "I don't even own a CD player or a record player." And I'm like, "Oh, it costs like $20 on Amazon. Buy a CD player, then you can have physical things." Plus, I mean, like, I want the vinyl. Yes. Please, Joe, get the vinyl. Yes, the vinyl. I will autograph it and have it sent to you. And you are thanked on the record too, Joe. And it is 180 gram. It's for those of you who are audiophiles. I am. It's 180 gram. I have a vintage setup over here that's basically like a turntable. I have a CD player. I have a tape deck. I still have cassettes. I like to buy all the old stuff. I like to go to I love flea markets. And like I said, I like collectible stuff. And I like to buy records, cassettes, the whole deal. I have a CD player. I have the Blu-ray and that kind of thing. But I will do it that way. Let's see. Your car manufacturer removed a CD slot, so I'm forced to stream, but we'll be streaming. All right. Well, maybe you could buy like a small CD player or something, because the CD is going to be super cool. The thing is, anyone who downloads is going to miss out on all the art and poetry. This whole project is a physical thing. The design for the CD when it comes out folds out it's an 8-foot panel fold, so it's 4 and 4. It's like front and back, and the poetry's on the inside. The art's all around it. It's really cool. It's like this cardboard fold out. There's no jewel box. It's super cool, and I can't wait for that. And the album, of course, is a gatefold. So on the inside is the poetry and the art and all the credits. And those of you who are thanked will see their thank yous on that, and the inside of the CD, which I mentioned: Eric Denister, Tom Esposito, Joe Pitch, Rob McIntyre. You all get thank yous on there. Did I forget someone who was present here? Izzy Monsanto, Ivana Soldic, who did the designs with me. Brilliant designer, and she's awesome in every way. And so, and then somebody else in the chat has a thank you who I didn't tell. I'm not going to tell, but they maybe will figure it out. And my mom, who might be in the chat. I'm not sure. I haven't seen, but she might be there. I think I saw her in the beginning, but she gets the first thank you. And I just put a shout out to my mother. Are you there? Hi, she is there. There it is. There she is. My mother is the greatest human being I know. And so it's true. She is my best friend and has been since I was a baby. We just are very similar people, and we connected from when I was a baby. She would just take me as a friend. She was like, try on clothes. I'd be like, as soon as I was able to speak, she'd take me to the clothes. She'd show me, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? She took me to the art museum. I grew up in Philadelphia. Sorry to say, I love New York. I really love New York. But I grew up in Philadelphia. And she'd bring me to the Philly Art Museum. Those of you who know Rocky know the Philly Art Museum, where he's, cheering on the, jumping on the stairs, and everyone does that when they go there, and there's a Rocky statue. And I spent a lot of time there. It's my favorite place in Philadelphia. It's the Philly Art Museum. I grew up going to the Philly Art Museum. And she would take me there when I was 3 years old enough, as soon as I was old enough. My mother has a background in art and Renaissance literature. She has a master's degree in Renaissance literature. She has an undergraduate degree in art and English. And she's a brilliant, wonderful human being. She is the biggest influence in my life and the greatest ally I've ever had. you know, she inspires me every day, and she is, you know, I've consulted with her through everything. When I need advice, I go to her. And she lives in my building, so it's really convenient. She's on the top floor, 46th floor. I'm on the 13th floor, lucky 13. Hell's Kitchen, 13th floor, awesome. I have all kinds of cool stuff going on around here. But anyway, she gets the first thank you, and so there you go. And she's here in the chat, and so everyone say hi to my mom. So you'll see Sandra sBaR in the chat. So all right, so let's see where can you get the CD and vinyl? It's not available yet. The way this whole process is done these days for releasing music is completely different than what I knew years ago, and it's new for the past few years. It's only something that's very new, where you release single, and then the album. It used to be album and then single. But because of streaming and because of the way the algorithm is done for the music industry, you have to release singles and get traction on the singles. So everyone, please stream it as much as possible on Spotify and Apple Music. Spotify's the big one. That one gets me the most amount of credits with the industry. And then YouTube, watch that video. Just let it run. Just keep replaying the video. Just put likes, put comments. Anyone who has any appreciation or affection for me, please help me out here. As much social media as, get anyone you know to follow me on social media, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and my Facebook, not just my personal page, which some of you are on, but the Rob sBaR composer guitarist page. Follow it, like things. The more I get that, the more it helps me out. It gets, that whole thing. The more streaming on Spotify, the more views on YouTube, the more likes and that whole thing. So tell your friends, So everyone's saying hi to my mother. Thank you. Yeah, so there you go. Thank you all for saying hi to my mother, and that's great. She is just the greatest person, and I love her like I couldn't say. So anyway, I'm very happy that she lives in my building. It was something we always wanted. When I first moved to New York, I used to go into Philadelphia all the time to see her. When my father passed away, my mother moved up here to be around me. And she was living in Brooklyn, and I was living on the Upper East Side. Those who it's not close. By subway, it's like an hour and a half. But then we said, we got to be near each other. Let's be in the same neighborhood. But it just so happened that we both got into the same building, which you have to apply for, because it's for performing artists and people involved in that kind of thing. And we both got into it. So she's on the top floor. She has a view of the city. It's a brilliant view. And maybe at some point I'll do a live stream from her place, because you can see from her window, Statue of Liberty, the Empire State Building, the Hudson River. You can see fireworks on 4th of July right from her window. You don't need to go out anywhere. You just walk up. I just go to her place and watch it out the window. I take pictures, and it's pretty great. But I can see her regularly, so it's great. It's a terrific thing. Anyway, okay, great. So if there's no other questions, I'll say this. Please send me your playlists. Put me on the playlists. Send them to me. I'm going to extend this out a little longer, and then I will make an announcement. Maybe in a week. Who wins the piece of merchandise. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. It means a great deal to me. So, and thank you all of you for coming and offering questions and being part of the chat. Thank you all for doing this and being a part of this. It really warms my heart. It means a great deal to me. This project is my life. I function only as a carbon-based life form to function as the output of what I do creatively. Otherwise, nothing else matters to me. The people in my life matter, and what I do as a creative artist matters to me. I'm fine doing whatever I have to do, not sleeping, not eating, which people who know me know that I rarely do either one, just to get the art out there. So those of you who are supporting it, thank you. And thank you for your interest in the CD, those who said, and the vinyl. It will come, but unfortunately, the industry forces me to release singles first. And I will do that, but it's cool because I get to make these cool videos. And the next one's going to be really interesting, very big brothery, George Orwell. I have this concept that I'm super excited about, that I've wanted to make for a long time. So it'll be awesome. I think those of you who like this video might not like the other one. Those who like the other one might not like this one. I have multiple sides to me. And that's the whole concept of behind this record, is the dichotomy of, sort of metaphysical versus the existential. You sort of see the comic book illustration versus the very serious sort of expressionist kind of thing going on there. Again, mugs. Everyone should have a mug. They should drink their coffee from this. T-shirts. Go to my store on my website, robsbar.com. Just buy something, get something, put something, this one's my favorite because I just am very happy with the art. And yeah, I'm gonna get this thing going again. And I have another contest coming. Let's see if that goes back on. It does. All right, I have another contest coming after this one, another giveaway. I'll give away some more stuff, but it'll come after we finish off this one. Whereas it'll be, yes, cookies. My mother provides me with cookies too. I should mention that. My favorite chocolate chip cookies are coming your way. Yes, thank you, Joe Pitch. Also, thank you on the record. Yes, my favorite chocolate chip cookies in the world. If anyone ever wants to do something nice for me, send me Levain's cookies. I will give you my address. If you send me Levain's cookies, you will be my best friend ever. I am a Levain's fanboy. My favorite things in the world are Levain's cookies. I love Ibanez guitars. My Hulk 181, for those who know what that is, I have a Hulk 181. It's a very rare comic book. It's the first appearance of Wolverine. I bought it when I was 11 for $15. It's worth about $15,000 now. It's signed by the artist who is deceased, and it's graded. It's awesome, and it's my favorite object in the world, that I own. But cookies are my favorite food. Chocolate chip cookies and Levain's are my favorite. So those of you who know, if you want to send me some cookies, I would always appreciate that. And my favorite ones are the chocolate chip walnut. Those are the mainstay. So yes, chocolate chip walnut are the ones. There's a lot, and they're all good. Chocolate chip walnut are like the best. So anyone who hasn't tried them and lives in New York, Boston, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, Chicago, I think they have locations there. It started in New York on the Upper West Side. They started expanding in the past couple of years, and now they're all over the place. Just in those places, but they're getting there, and you should be hungry, Greg. They are outstanding if you haven't had them. They are the best thing I've ever eaten, and it's my vice. But yeah, so I'm gonna play out. Please send me your playlists. If you're a musician, please do any bit of cover. If you play the intro, well, I'll do a little with distortion. It doesn't sound good with distortion. Let me put some clean on. Okay, yeah, that's more like it. I think I had to do the 6/9 chord. West Montgomery style. But I'm going to play out, and if anyone else has any questions before I do, just shoot them up, and I'll play this thing out. And do a little playing to end this thing. And yeah. Again, I really appreciate everyone being here. I really appreciate everyone's questions and all the support. And there's more to come. We're just getting started. So I'm going to play out with I'm playing with Brothel. So we'll get a little bit of that going again. So let me get my cable in a better place. All right. Let's see here. I'll bring this chair over here, and then I will play out a little bit. Okay. So this works.
Rats on horseback pushing wheelbarrows filled with ashes through emerald fields and guillotine pumpkin patches.
That riff.
Brothel Slaughterhouse Soup with a glass of fucking cool.
Thanks again, everyone. Thank you all for being here. And we'll do another one of these soon. And please download the track, stream the track. I was saying before, if anyone does any cover of this, put it on social media, and you will get anything you want from my merch store. Just send me a link. I'll put it on social media. And yeah, and anything, just any part of the track. Do any part of the track, put it on social media. You get any piece of merchandise you want. Just make sure I know it. Cool. All right. All right. So let's see what else. Play the part that sounds like more guitars are there. Yeah, if I could split myself, I would. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being there. I'm going to end this thing, and I will see you all soon. Thanks again. Bye now.